Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and Apple has returned from their holiday vacation and is back working on products and updates. This past week saw more news about the upcoming iPhone 14, Apple working on the iPhone Fold, Apple Glass, and also we should see iOS 15.3 Beta 2 and maybe another version. This is your news update for the week of January 9th, 2022. And this week marks the 15th anniversary of the original iPhone introduction. While it wasn't released yet, Steve Jobs stood on stage and announced the iPhone 2G, as we now call it. This is the first generation iPhone. You can see this is a working version that I have here. I've shown off in different videos and of course slide to unlock and more. And so this was when it all started. This is what really piqued my interest in Apple as far as maybe getting into a smartphone. I had looked at others before and they announced this and then it released later that year. And I started my adventure with Apple back then. So this is the iPhone 2G's 15th anniversary. It seems like it hasn't been that long, but now we have the iPhone 13 Pro Max, and it's crazy. It's already been 15 years. Now, this past week on the 7th, Apple announced some new Fitness Plus features that they would be coming out with, and they're now available today. So if you use Apple Fitness Plus, under Fitness Plus, you'll see new this week. You have artist spotlights. You have some new time to walk conversations with different people, new workouts, new meditations under collections. You'll see here a wind down for bedtime and more. So there's a bunch of new things Apple's added if you have Fitness Plus, and it's available in your current country. So I know some people in India said that it's not available yet, but it's available in the United States and possibly other countries as well. So you have those available right now. They started to be available around midnight Eastern time last night. Today, Apple put out a press release recounting all of the different services they've pushed out this past year to enrich people's lives. And you can see this update. I'll link it in the description, but you'll see it says Apple services enrich people's lives throughout the year. So it's a recap of everything from Apple Arcade to Apple Music and much more. This is a very comprehensive overview from everything from Apple TV. You'll see those Fitness Plus features I mentioned earlier, and much, much more. I'll link it in the description if you want to check out the article, but they also mention the Apple Digital ID, which we would expect probably within the next update or so. I'll talk about in a little bit, but Apple has said, and I mentioned this before, that they will be rolling that out to certain airports in the United States that they've partnered with the TSA to allow you to use your digital ID on your phone or your Apple Watch to get through the checkpoints. This, of course, requires biometric verification and much more, and should be starting in February. So we'll need a new update so that feature is available. So hopefully we'll see something in a few weeks, but I'll talk about that a little bit more in a bit. Now, the next thing is, if you're looking for a new MacBook Pro, maybe you've been waiting for the new MacBook Pro and you're finding it hard to come by, well, on the Apple Store, some of them are now in the store and seemingly about 3 weeks out at the most. So if we go down, depending on your configuration, maybe you want a 10-core CPU with a 32-core GPU, well, that pushes it out until March. But depending on your configuration, if you go with the base model, sometimes it's available today in certain locations, depending on your configuration. So you'll see the 16 gigabyte model. Some of them are available as soon as February 1st, and depending on your storage and more, it can vary. But it depends where you live. Some people are seeing these available now based on the configurations they want, although it does seem if you bump up the memory to 32 gigabytes or 64 gigabytes, it seems to delay the shipments even more. So it seems as though memory is the problem here. If I go to 64 gigabytes of RAM, it's saying March 3rd. So it just depends on what configuration you want, but we're seeing that time frame come down, meaning the supply chain is ramping up to provide parts for these devices. So hopefully we'll see those in stock everywhere very soon, and you'll be able to get your hands on them immediately. Apple will announce its Q1 earnings on January 27th, 2022 at 2 p.m. Pacific time. That's where they go over all of the different earnings they made over the holiday season, where they typically have a record season every year. Now, they don't go over sales numbers of iPhones anymore, unfortunately, but they will tell us how much they've made, what sort of plans they have for the future. And they also announced their annual shareholding meeting will be held virtually on March 4th at 9 a.m. Pacific time. This is good news for those of us looking for different products, as typically a week or two after that is when we start to see them ramp up for events and new products. So hopefully we'll see something with that, but if you're interested in those meetings, that's when Apple has announced them. With the introduction of iOS 15, Apple introduced iCloud Private Relay. This is a way to keep your information private and your activity private across the internet. Apparently, telecommunications companies are not happy with this feature, saying that it undermines their digital sovereignty. Some people in the European Union and now in the United States on T-Mobile are seeing that it's blocked when you turn on the feature. Some people are seeing it blocked where they're saying it's not available on your cellular plan. So this is something that they're saying is undermining it, and they're also saying that it harms the way they can control their networks. I'm not sure I really buy that, as I've worked for telecommunications companies in the past. However, they definitely cannot see your information and they don't like that. It's the equivalent of using a VPN and then some all of the time, and telecommunications companies apparently are not very happy with that. So this may be a battle we see in the future and might be why it's still in beta, but some users are already seeing that it's disabled. I'd love to hear what you think about this though in the comments below. Intel this past week introduced their new 12th gen Core i9 processor at CES. This is for laptops, and Intel is claiming that it's faster than Apple's M1 Max, which certainly could be a possibility, but they didn't talk about power consumption. One of the greatest advantages of M1 that's not only in this iPad, but also the latest Macs, is that it uses such little power that you can last up to 20 or 20 plus hours on battery life. Intel could be faster, but we'll have to see what they can actually do power consumption wise when they release to the public. And also Apple has integrated hardware and software together where the Intel chip won't have that. So we'll have to wait and see if it actually improves anything as far as power consumption, but it definitely could be faster based off what they're saying. Also, something I thought maybe you'd enjoy seeing is Internal Archive on Twitter is showing a prototype of the MagSafe battery pack before it was released to the public. Apparently, prior to the final release, it had sort of a glossy finish and a status indicator that's on the inside that would let you know when it's charged, but Apple moved this to the bottom of the battery pack as that makes more sense, so you could see the status when it's attached to your phone. But this just gives us a nice little inside look at what it looks like maybe before it was released to the public and one of the design iterations. So it's nice to see these sort of things every once in a while. A couple weeks ago, people asked me to cover discounts on products. With the holidays, there's new discounts, and some of those discounts have continued with the AirPods Pro. They're $189 on Amazon, down from $249. Maybe this hints at a future release, but I don't think we're going to see those for a while. Also, AirPods Max are $479 instead of $549 right now on Amazon. So I'll link those. They're affiliate links. I'll get a little bit from those. If you don't want to use those, you can just search for them on Amazon, and you'll find both the AirPods Max and AirPods Pro, along with M1 Max that are discounted $100 to $200. So all of those things are discounted. I'll try and find some better discounts as well in future videos, but these are still on discount if you're looking for new AirPods or maybe replacements. Now, as far as upcoming iOS versions, well, I talked a little bit about this in my follow-up. I expect an iOS 15.2.1, or maybe Apple will push these fixes in 15.3 if we only have another beta or so. And the reason I say that is there's quite a few issues, one of them being with HomeKit. If you rename something to a 500,000 character string, it can trigger a device bug that makes it unusable even after a restore. It's a major bug and something they'll need to patch. Also, many people that use messages are seeing that read receipts are sending even with that feature turned off. If you have read receipts turned off, some people are still seeing a receipt of that you've read their messages. So that's something they need to fix, as well as noise cancellation on the iPhone 13 models where we don't have the toggle to turn that on or off, or even seemingly have it altogether. And then, of course, the music bug where it drains the battery when you're streaming music. This is something we know about, Apple knows about, that's in 15.2 as well and was in earlier betas, and they need to fix those. Whether they wait until a later version to patch those problems, or maybe 15.2.1, we could see some sort of release this week or maybe next week to fix those issues. So I just thought I'd bring that up as there's additional problems with that. As far as iOS 15.3 Beta 2, well, since it's not out today, I would expect it as soon as tomorrow. Based off what we've had year over year, I talked about this last week as well, iOS 12.1.3, I've looked the past 3 years, was released on January 10th, 2019. iOS 13.3.1 Beta 2 released on January 14th, 2020, and last year, iOS 14.4 Beta 2 released on January 13th, 2021. So I would expect, based off of that information, some sort of release up to maybe the latest Thursday this week. However, typically Apple releases things on Tuesday when they come back, so Tuesday, Wednesday timeframe, but within the next couple of days, you can definitely expect some sort of beta release. to Beta 2, iOS 15.3 Beta 2, and maybe a public release as well. Now we're getting into the rumors section of this video, and the first thing has to do with the April Apple event. It looks like Apple's going to push out an event in March or April, and maybe they'll show off some new products. But last year on April 20th, Apple held an event where it introduced AirTags, the M1 iPad Pro that I have here, the new iMacs that we now know and love, Apple TV 4K 2nd generation, and the new purple colored iPhone 12 and 12 mini. So all of those things were announced last April, so we can expect an event, according to Mark Gurman, in March or April this year. We can expect an iPhone SE 3rd generation that looks much the same as what we have now, but instead has 5G capabilities and maybe a better battery with a more efficient chipset. Also, along with that, maybe we'll see a new iPad Pro, maybe something a little bit different there with wireless charging, as well as possibly AirPods. Now, some people are saying AirPods Pro 2 will be launching later this year. However, last week we heard about that plan that they are going to be coming at the end of the year with a new design, lossless audio, and a case that has a built-in speaker to help you locate them. However, it appears Apple's suppliers are already working on preparing to ship them. So this could mean that they're done, or maybe they're just ramping up to get everything in place for later this year. Either way, it looks like they're definitely coming at some point this year. However, it could be sooner rather than later if they don't have enough to cover in an upcoming March or April event. Many have said that the iPhone 14 Pro and iPhone 14 Pro Max will do away with the notch and instead replace it with a hole punch style display like we've seen on different devices before. However, now Dylan DKT is saying that the hole punch is more of a pill-shaped to accommodate Face ID sensors. This makes a lot more sense. It would be a little bit more unique, maybe be a centered hole punch display like you can see in this render here from Angeloliberodesigns, or maybe it'll be off to the side. Either way, it makes sense that they could put that here and have it accommodate Face ID if they've shrunk those components down. It does not seem as though they're going to put an under-the-display fingerprint sensor, although I would welcome that myself, as I would appreciate that more than Face ID, but that's just my specific opinion. Some have also said that the iPhone 14 may be portless this year. We've heard this for the past few years with the introduction of MagSafe, but it seems like they would push that off until the following year, since they don't typically do a redesign until every 3 years or so. They could definitely change the display on the next model and maybe some things with the camera, but it seems like that's what's going to be the big changes for the iPhone 14, where the 15 would have something with a different design. So maybe we'll see that in a couple of years at this point. Now, Apple is still working on a foldable iPhone. However, they're trying to make sure that it's not going to be a fad, and it's not something that it would be maybe a regression from the current design from. So according to Dylan DKT, they are investigating this still, but they may not ever push out a foldable phone if it's something that doesn't seem sustainable over time. I know some people that have them that absolutely love them. Personally, I've used them. I don't really understand the point, as I'd rather have an iPhone and an iPad or a tablet and a phone. It's just my opinion on it, but some people absolutely love the fold. And of course, there's the durability factor that factors into that as well. So we'll have to wait and see maybe a couple more years, but I don't think Apple's planning to push out a foldable phone anytime soon. Now, as far as those who are waiting for the Apple Watch Series 8, I know a lot of people were very excited for maybe some new sensors on them, where maybe it could test for your temperature or blood sugar, things like that. But it looks like Apple has not yet figured this out in a way that would be good enough that it was reliable. So those of us that are waiting for those new sensors may have to wait a couple more years, as Apple is still working on getting them right, according to Mark Gurman. So temperature and blood glucose would be huge ones, especially blood glucose, but it seems like maybe Apple might need to push this out to a 2-year cycle unless they're planning to fully redesign it to a squared off Apple Watch like many said last year. So maybe we'll see a 2-year cycle on the Apple Watch, or maybe we will see that ruggedized version with some new inclusions this year. Either way, maybe better battery life and additional sensors, but those sensors that many of us want look like they might be a few years out. Now, as far as the Apple AR or VR headset, it looks like Apple is definitely still working on this, and in a recent research note obtained by Mac Rumors, Ming-Chi Kuo has said that the upcoming Apple headset will have a 3P pancake lens, which will allow light to bounce back and forth, and in turn will make the display more compact. That same day, Ross Young stated that the headset will be equipped with 3 displays, so maybe one outside for status or something along those lines. But either way, Apple is definitely still working on this, and it's looking like 2022 may be the year of the Apple mixed reality headset. Mark Gurman in his Power On newsletter has said that he's been told pretty directly that an idea of a metaverse like that of Facebook and Oculus is an off-limits idea at Apple, and that the device is not designed to be an all-day sort of device where you would wear it all day, but rather used for bursts of gaming, communication, and more. So I'm glad to see Apple still taking that privacy stance. I've worn a lot of Oculus headsets, and I can use them for about an hour or two at most. So to use them all day is definitely not something I want to do unless they find a way to ease sort of the eye strain with those. But that's everything for this past week. Of course, we're looking for iOS 15.3 Beta 2 very soon, and maybe a public release on top of that. So hopefully we see something with that and Apple Watch, as some devices are having problems charging with the Series 7. So hopefully we'll see that very, very soon. If you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, of course, I'll link it in the description like I normally do. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.